Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're hiding in the bushes. Hiding in the bushes. Okay, we're not hiding in the bushes. We're actually, where are we?
King's Cross.
King's Cross.
Canal Drops.
Canal.
That's
Cold
what
Drops.
it's called.
It's called Cold Drops Yard near the canal.
Oh.
Not Canal Drops. But it's okay. Whatever it is where we're at.
Right, we're actually sitting opposite a canal.
Yeah. But behind us they've created this little area where it's like, feels very natural. So anyway, we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's a beautiful sunny day. You can't see the sky behind us, but it's this clear blue, and it's early, and it's already hot. So, like that.
Yes, horrible.
It's wonderful.
It's Canto 3. Oh my Lord. Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 1.
So we're starting a new chapter. Haribol! A new chapter in our lives.
Okay, that chapter's entitled Understanding Material Nature.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 1. The personality of Godhead, Kapila, continued. When the living entity is thus unaffected by the most material nature, because he is unchanging, and does not claim proprietorship, he remains apart from the reactions of the modes, although abiding in a material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water. In the previous chapter, Lord Kapila Dev has concluded that simply by beginning the discharge of devotional service, one can attain detachment and transcendental knowledge for understanding the science of God. Here the same principle is confirmed. A person who is detached from the most material nature remains just like the sun reflected on water. When the sun is reflected on water, the movement of the water or the coolness or unsteadiness of the water cannot affect the sun. Similarly, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. That's Bhagavatam 127. When one engages fully in the activities of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, he becomes just like the sun reflected on water. Although a devotee appears to be in the material world, actually he is in the transcendental world. As the reflection of the sun appears to be on the water, but is many millions of miles away from the water, so one engaged in the Bhakti Yoga process is nirguna, or unaffected by the qualities of material nature.
That's very good.
Yeah, it's like when they say, what do they say, like, Vrindavan is like a state of mind or whatever, you know, like you can be here in this material world. It's not that I need to be physically go there, you know. There is someone who's there, may not be there.
Yeah.
It's where your heart and consciousness is.
Yeah, it's ultimately about the consciousness.
Krishna consciousness.
Of course, at the same time, you know, as we were with one devotee yesterday discussing about Vrindavan and, you know, just talking about Vrindavan itself and Govardhan Hill, Radha Kund, Vrindavan Town, the deities, Sompopuri, so many things we were discussing. Then, you know, you feel connected there. But when you actually go there, you also genuinely feel, you know, the Dham, the spirit of the holy Dham.
Yeah.
But, as you said, you can be in the holy Dham, and yesterday this devotee was mentioning that although there are lots of people who are in the holy Dham who are talking and thinking about getting out of the Dham and going to the West and, you know, trying to enjoy life, and so it is, as you were saying, all about consciousness. And I like this poetic kind of analogy. of the sun reflected on the water, and you see the reflection gets all affected, but the sun is undisturbed. So that means we can be completely here in the material world getting on with things, but our consciousness is so much focused on our eternal relationship with Krishna and being absorbed in bhakti that physically we're just not affected by the externals. Similar, again, the devotee we were visiting yesterday was in hospital and in quite a bad physical condition, but their consciousness was so positive and so Krishna conscious, and it was like the visit was uplifting in one sense. It wasn't like, oh God, poor you, poor me, poor us, poor the whole world, they were just in such positive consciousness, Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, true.
Should you read on? So next paragraph. Avikara means without change. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that each and every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and thus his eternal position is to cooperate or to dovetail his energy with the Supreme Lord. That is his unchanging position. As soon as he employs his energy in activities for sense gratification, this change of position is called vikara. So you have avikara and vikara. Similarly, even in this material body, when he practices devotional service under the direction of the spiritual master, he comes to the position which is without change, because that is his natural duty. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, liberation means reinstatement in one's original position. The original position is one of rendering service to the Lord. Bhakti yogena bhaktya. When one becomes detached from material attraction and engages fully in devotional service, that is changelessness. Akartritwat means not doing anything for sense gratification. When one does something at his own risk, there is a sense of proprietorship and therefore reaction. But when one does everything for Krishna, there is no proprietorship over the activities. By changelessness and by not claiming the proprietorship of activities, one can immediately situate himself in the transcendental position in which one is not touched by the modes of material nature, just as the reflection of the sun is unaffected by the water. Very powerful. Proprietorship, I made a note here, proprietorship is taking a chance to do something for one's own self and not for Krishna. Of course, there's a famous saying, proprietorship turns sand into gold. And that means that if someone feels a sense of responsibility, or that it's their project to do for Krishna, then that can be a positive thing, because they feel like, oh, I'm getting the opportunity to do something for Krishna, let me try to do it really nicely. Whereas if someone keeps feeling that they don't have that capacity for proprietorship of doing something for Krishna, now of course, then they can remain a little stagnant or uninspired or something like that. So I think this principle of proprietorship can be used positively in Krishna service, and may even be a sort of requirement. Srila Prabhupada would often give responsibility, appoint responsibility for a temple, for a project, for specific services to devotees, so they had a sense of proprietorship, but that proprietorship was specifically for the service of Krishna. So it's a little different, I guess, if we try to do something just simply wholly and solely for ourselves, in a, let's say, a selfish manner, without any care, concern, or consideration of Krishna consciousness. But yeah, the principle is there. Anyway, thoughts?
Yeah, to do with your consciousness and your motive. Like what we were saying in a previous paragraph. Is it not?
Say that again.
So it comes down to like what we said in a previous paragraph, your motive and consciousness in why we're doing something. Because everything can be turned around and employed
in Krishna service.
Yeah.
True. Good point. Yep.
Alright, text 2. When the soul is under the spell of material nature and false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities, and by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. Actually, the conditioned soul is forced to act under the pressure of the modes of material nature. The living entity has no independence. When he is under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is free. But when under the impression that he is satisfying his senses, he engages in sense gratificatory activities. He is actually under the spell of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Prakriti Kriyamanani. One acts according to the particular modes of nature he has acquired. Guna refers to the qualities of nature. He is under the qualities of nature, but he falsely thinks that he is the proprietor. This false sense of proprietorship can be avoided simply by engaging oneself in devotional service under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita was trying to accept for himself the responsibility for killing his grandfather and teacher in the fight, but he became freed from that proprietorship of action when he acted under the direction of Krishna. He fought, but he was actually freed from the reactions of fighting, although in the beginning, when he was non-violent, unwilling to fight, the entire responsibility was upon him. That is the difference between liberation and conditioning. A conditioned soul may be very good and act in the mode of goodness, but still he is conditioned under the spell of material nature. A devotee, however, acts completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Thus his actions may not appear to be of a very high quality to the common man, but the devotee has no responsibility. So we shouldn't really judge someone because we don't know what's going on in their mind and heart and why they're doing what they're doing, you know. In devotional service, sometimes you can, oh, you don't do this service, or you don't dress like this, or you know, you only come like for the midday arati, or you know, whatever. But that person, time, place, circumstance, they may be so surrendered and acting in a way only they can due to those situations, and someone who's there all the time and doing this, that and the other, don't mean they're acting for Krishna.
True. Again, it boils down to the consciousness. But it's an amazing example, I think, of Arjuna, that when he decided to fight based on the instructions of Krishna, even though he was performing the activity, he was not the proprietor of that activity. But when he was making a decision not to fight and to renounce that mood and mentality, then he was becoming the proprietor. So that's interesting. So then he would have suffered the reactions for that. And that's not such an easy point to grasp, because we usually say, if you choose to do something, then you're the proprietor. If you choose not to do something, then you're not doing anything, so you're free. But even if you choose, there's a famous song that says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. So even if you choose not to do something, still you've made that choice. And if that choice is against the desire or the prescribed duty of Krishna, then you get the reaction. I was just reading this morning in Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani by His Holiness Sri Brahma Swami, where he was mentioning about the principle of the guru-disciple relationship, and how the disciple obviously has an obligation to learn from the guru and apply those teachings into his life so that he can make spiritual advancement. But then he went on to explain that the spiritual master also has a responsibility to educate that disciple. And if that a spiritual master just goes around initiating many disciples but doesn't have an actual process in place for educating them and helping them to make spiritual progress, then he becomes subjected to reactions. So it's not just the disciple who has the responsibility, the guru also has responsibility. So in that way, similar analogy, I guess, could be drawn between these two items, that we have to be careful in the choices that we make, and being sure that they're definitely clearly in line with Krishna. And as it says here in the purport, that means that we should be acting under the instruction and guidance of a bona fide spiritual master.
Yes.
Om Tat Sat. Should we conclude there? I'll read one more.
Can read one more?
Okay. Text 3. The conditioned soul therefore transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. Purport. Sorry, I was trying to keep an eye because I'm expecting a call. Here the word karma dosai means the faulty actions. This refers to any activity, good or bad, performed in this material world that are all contaminated, faulty actions because of material association. The foolish conditioned soul may think that he is offering charity by opening hospitals for material benefit or by opening an educational institution for material education, but he does not know that all such work is also faulty, because it will not give him relief from the process stated here, sad asan mishra yoni su. This means that one may take birth in a very high family, or he may take his birth in higher planets among the demigods for his so-called pious activities in the material world. But this work is also faulty because it does not give liberation. To take birth in a nice place or a high family does not mean that one avoids undergoing the material tribulations, the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. A conditioned soul under the spell of material nature cannot understand that any action he performs for sense gratification is faulty, and that only his activities in devotional service to the Lord can give him release from the reaction of faulty activities. Because he does not cease such faulty activities, he has to change to different bodies, some high and some low. That is called samsara padavim, which means this material world from which there is no release. Oh God. One who desires material liberation has to turn his activities to devotional service. There is no alternative. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thoughts?
So definitive. There is no alternative.
Yeah, the material world is a very difficult place to get out of. We're really shackled here. And actually on the way here we saw this little kind of like almost like a sculptor poster type thing on the side of a wall. And it was like a kind of stick figure man holding a balloon and being lifted off the ground. And in the other hand, he was holding a big bag of money. And that's the dilemma, right? You can't lift off the ground with this little balloon if you're trying to hold on to whole bunch of things here, you know. Of course, a bag of money is symbolic of whatever attachments we may have, whatever things we in the material world we think have value. And the balloon is kind of like that process of devotional service, of bhakti, the process of spiritual realization that lifts us out of the material world, but we're still holding on to something. So I guess the question is, what are you holding on to? What am I holding on to? I got a long list. Okay?
Yes.
So we'll finish there. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Please remember to like, share, comment, and above all, please subscribe to the channel and share with your friends, so get them to subscribe also. We've been getting so many positive comments from devotees, actually more or less all over the world, who are watching, and we just want to thank you all very much. It inspires and encourages us, and we really do like to read the Bhagavatam, and we're happy that you're able to join us.
Yes, big shout out to my uncle Jamin.
Yay!
Jamin Mama in San Francisco.
San Francisco. Jamin Mama, nice to hear from you. So amazing. And I was just at Avanti Court yesterday, and another cousin.
Yeah, Himesh.
Himesh,
Yeah,
shout out to you,
watch.
Himesh, as well. Nice to see you. Thank you. If you're watching, either of you are watching this, put it in the comments. Let us know you're there.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Okay. Take care, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.